Thank you. 6 o'clock, I'm calling the Bucyrus City Council joint regular committee meetings to order at 6 p.m. on May 20th, 2021. Members present: James Mee, Kevin Myers, Mark McKeever, Bruce Truca, Doug Vogt, Lisa Alsep, and myself, Sierra and Sherrick. To start the meeting, do we have any public participation?
Yes, I'm Christy Hopkins, and we live in
Come on.
We need your name and address.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Christy Hopkins, and I live at 2228 Frida Drive in the Timken division. And we've been having some problems with the drainage backup. And I've talked to the mayor, I've talked to the township, and I'm just trying to find out where we're at and what we're going to do about it.
Jeff Dunn, Service Garage Foreman. We've been out there since last week, cleaning that sewer, trying to find out what was going on with it. It's a concrete, 10 or 12 inch. A lot of tree roots in it, some broken tile. It's open now. There's other stuff we have to do to it to make it better, but the system is open now. The main trunk line is. To go through the whole system, we're probably looking over a month off and on being out there to look at it, to see what's going on. I just found out last week that the city's been billing for stormwater out there, which I didn't know. I was told the township had the storm, we had the sanitary. So I just found out last Wednesday in the meeting that we actually have been billing these people out there for that. So I guess we need to find, I talked to the township, they wasn't aware of that. So I don't know when this took place for sure, but we got to find out ownership, I guess. And utility office said back in 2015 is when they started charging. So now I got to find out, trustees, council, administration, who owns what.
Does that help?
It does help.
I also live in Timken subdivision. I've lived out there about 40 years.
Name and address, please.
Gary Graham, 2245 Frida Drive. And as far as I know, we've been paying that sewer fee or runoff fee for at least as long as I've been there. In fact, I have a bill with me. He's saying no, but
It didn't exist then.
in fact, we pay double, time and a half, whatever.
That's sanitary sewer, not storm sewer.
Okay. But thank you for correcting me. It has progressively gotten worse. You're talking about the main trunk going to like the golf course or something is plugged up?
That's the sanitary sewer. The trunk storm sewer goes across, used to be an open field, and the First Federal, the credit union's in there now, and your line went across there, intercepted a line coming from what used to be the south side of Mansfield Street, went northwest across what was State Route 96 at that time, through the Stone Drive, and then back through Overlanders was the path that your storm drains, which were probably put in the 50s after the sanitary was put in for Timken. Roller bearing in 1950s when Timken was built, and then Mr. Davis was the engineer at the time to design the subdivision. And until the city implemented the storm water utility, that the storm drains were the townships until we started, and they accepted that, but the city took over the ownership of the water lines and the sanitary sewer.
Doesn't the new Aldi's that's being built also start dumping into that?
No, it does not. They dump into a different system on the south side of the road. There used to be a 36-inch tile underneath Mansfield Street that flowed north, and that was blocked off with a stop sign back in the 70s, and I was there when it was done. And so that they separated because, and that's when the road started really flooding a lot. And then more recently, the county engineer, previous county engineer, put in a 18-inch storm sewer on the south side of the road that runs down in front of Miller's Restaurant down to Aaron's Rent and goes north there to the ditch, to the open ditch. And Aldi's is draining into a tile. You've seen their big orange stuff. They're going to be putting in their detention basin. That's what that's for. That's underground storage. And Walmart had theirs, and there's also a great big detention basin that was built in behind the strip mall to slow that water and contain that water to try to help with the 18-inch. But your line's on the north side of the road and goes into a separate tile system today.
So all these will not affect us?
No,
Because
no ma'am.
construction workers, there was a hole there, and he goes, well, right there's where it's going into the city drain. That's where it's.
Yeah, they've got a catch basin on the northwest corner of their property there that we've been out there several times looking at. But that goes down in front of the detention basin at Walmart and then picks up into that newer 18-inch tile. Don't hold me quite to the 18, but it's somewhere around there, and it gets 24 on down.
Well, do you know what's going on with the sheriff's department if that drainage is gonna come down our street?
That drains, goes the other direction and drains to the east. It's going to be tied into a 15-inch tile that's out in front of Home, Family, and Farm. When that was Kmart, they put in that and drained it to the old reservoir. And you went over a hump, so it drains the other way.
One more question.
Go for it.
Apparently the tile is also plugged on Frida going all the way to the top with the same root system or something is what we've heard. What about that one?
I'm not that one. Do you know anything about that, Jeff?
Which direction is, which one you're talking about?
Frida would start at the top of the hill by the old Kmart, coming down, straight down Frida
First
Drive,
street
along
on
the
East
edge of
West.
Frida Drive, crossing across. We were told that the cameras said that one's totally plugged too.
Well, that's something I'm gonna research in the next month. Honestly, I don't know that.
Okay.
So we're gonna, I won't be out there every day with it, but off and on, we're gonna be out there trying to see what's good and what's bad.
Now, we have three drainage basins in our yard, whatever you want to call them.
Okay?
Now, around the concrete, I mean, it looks like it could be like a sinkhole,
Okay.
but there's a couple like that, but,
Last year, we was out there did GISing just to find out where everything was at. But at that time, I thought it belonged to the township, so I basically marked it as a private deal, meaning it belonged to the township. Now, after I talk to council and administration, everybody, find out what's what for sure, we'll be in those lines to, if we can get in, if not, we'll have to dig them up to get into them. We'll, clean them, make sure everything's
well,
good.
I've seen, past 2 weeks up there.
Yep, that past 2 weeks we've been there.
You had to dig up the catch basin because it was buried.
Well, yeah, last year we had water going into the sanitary sewer from the storm. As we was digging, we found a buried catch basin. So I left it open. Township paid for the parts at the time, I did the labor. Since then, that's the line that we found the tree roots was plugged in going to the west. So that's open now. We have flow going through it, but it's not perfect yet.
And it had a broken tile, private tile from the north that went in between the two houses there and broke out a big section of tile that'll have to get repaired.
Do we have any recourse from all the damage from this last storm we had because that was plugged up from all the
Well,
losses?
I don't believe the storm was the problem. I believe it's everything, the sanitary backed up. The whole town did. I mean, we had issues, the plant couldn't take any more flow or anything. I mean, it was going over the CSOs, it was just one of those acts of God,
Well, I had a phone call from the mayor, and
I'm just gonna say, if you call my office and give me your phone number, or tonight Brayden will get it, and I'll talk to you personally.
Gotcha.
okay.
Thank you.
How do you remember all this stuff?
That's my thing. Don't ask me my wife's my anniversary.
I was just sitting here just blown away the whole time. It's just, wow.
Doesn't know his anniversary, but he knows he was married over top of a 15-inch sewer tile.
Well, ask him what he was doing on Sunday of Mother's Day when he should have been home.
Well, you gotta answer the question
What
now.
were you doing?
It was pouring down rain that day.
Yeah.
He was out checking the whole city.
Inspecting sewers, and last Sunday I found one on Sunday and gave him a call, and we ended up getting people we had an overflow, so. I like to follow up on what we do to see if it works or not.
Thanks, Lynn, you're a valuable asset.
Appreciate it.
Are we glad we hired this guy?
I am.
Lynn, I got one question. Sir? Since we opened up the Pines Reservoir, does that have any effect on these guys?
Nothing on theirs. It would help, well,
Because it worked as a retention pond before with everything.
yeah, but none of our water goes to it. Only the Kmart building.
Kmart building goes.
Yeah.
And all the water from all the land.
Yes. The driveway that just got constructed for the access drive for the sheriff's office and across from Timken Roller Bearing,
Yep.
that's going to go and tie into it and drain to the east. And the detention basin put in for the, I'm going to call it holding area that the sheriff's office is building back there with their new building. And there's a detention basin put in for that that'll come through, and that'll all go to the east. But none of that comes into Bucyrus, into our system in town here.
Okay.
Excellent. Do we have any more public participation? Okay. On that, at 6:11, I'm going to call public lands and buildings to order. First up, we have old notes, or minutes, sorry, to go over. We have the ones from April 20th and April 22nd that have been corrected, as well as the May 6th notes. I didn't read those the other night. I can read those. We've been through these others. If you guys don't mind looking through those, I'll go ahead and read the May 6th Public Lands and Building. It was called to order at 7:12 p.m. All members were present. City Hall metal detectors was the topic. Vote stated that this was on the agenda because the absence of people from the meetings. Sherrick stated that it had previously been agreed that everyone would submit to search before coming into council chambers, and that she did agree that she would prefer them at the entry doors because that made more sense. Vote stated that he thought the entry to the building should be limited to one door for people to go through the metal detectors. He stated that you don't go into any other government buildings without going through the metal detectors. Vote said Myers could talk more on fire code with whatever we would decide to do. Fankhauser stated that people have stated that for security, the metal detectors should be down at the front door. Myers stated that if you're trying to limit the number of doors you're allowing people to come into, you can't just lock the doors. You would have to remove some to be able to fit within the fire code. We would need some sort of reconstruction. Sherrick stated that we could funnel people in with something like ropes like the ones used at the theater, which costs much less money. Fankhauser then stated you would have to have a police officer at the door every hour the building is open. He went on to say that someone could have brought a weapon in at 10 o'clock at night while the doors are still unlocked and hidden it in the building, and we wouldn't know anything about it. Ratliff talked about Officer Stahl having active shooter training and that others have also been trained. He thought maybe we should invite one of them to come in and talk to council about what we may need. Sherrick asked who could legally work the metal detectors and fill that position. She asked if there was any way to have the position filled with someone less expensive that did not take away from the manpower of the police force. Truca didn't see why people couldn't just go through one door. Fankhauser stated Shelby allowed people to just bring concealed handguns with the exception of the court and the police department. He was reminded that our building houses the police department so that we wouldn't be able to allow such. McKeever stated that we should get someone from the police department to come to talk to us. Ratliff said that he would ask the chief to have someone come talk to us. Me asked if the sergeant of arms was supposed to be in the room. Number 3, the city coronavirus emergency declaration. This was on the agenda because it had previously been referred to both Health and Safety and Public Lands Committee. There was nothing to discuss. 4, Ratliff gave us another thing from American Tower. Verizon is currently subletting the towers to other companies. Nothing in the agreement talks about subletting. He's getting additional information. 5, Sherrick asked why All of the minutes that she'd typed and corrected had not been printed out and put in the evening's packets. Fankhauser stated that he completely forgot. Sherrick accepted that as an excuse. She had just wanted to know. Fankhauser apologized again and asked Fote about a paper he had given him earlier. Fote stated it wasn't anything pressing for the meeting. It was something he'd wanted him to be aware of, that he was planning to speak with Truca about regarding a complaint about people speeding. 8, Sherrick recessed Public Lands and Buildings at 7:27 p.m. Sherrick asked if there was any further public participation for the joint regular committee meeting with no response. She then recessed joint regular committee meetings at 7:27 p.m.
Yeah, I got a question about that. Doug is the one that mentioned 5 doors, and I mentioned 1 door.
I did mention 5 doors originally, and then I changed after.
Actually, it was 5 metal detectors because we had 5 doors.
Yeah, 5 metal detectors.
So that's not correct.
I was looking for where you were listed, sorry.
I just stated that, when I stated, I just thought, well, you know, the courthouse, they're able to have the people come through 1 door and exit 1 door. I'm not real sure why. We have 1/4 of the population and can't do the same thing as the county. And we got 45,000 people that lived in the county. So that was my statement, so.
Table.
That's fine.
Since you're tabling, I think I stated that the sergeant arm should be in the room.
You did, that's what it says. You asked if he should, where is it? If he was supposed to be in the room. That's literally the question that you asked. It's there. I just need to add where Truca had said something about 1 door.
Change vote to Truca.
Huh?
So change vote to Truca.
Yeah.
That solves the problem as far as I see it.
Found it. All right, corrected. Was there anything else to correct on there? Got it. All right. Any more questions about the other minutes from before that have been previously corrected? I put the corrections in bold, with the exception of Fankhauser's name. I just changed the spelling and fixed it. I apologize on that one. I don't know why my computer kept correcting that. Okay.
I'll move to approve your corrected minutes.
Move to approve corrected.
Yeah.
For both of them?
For the,
I'm just doing
for the first 2, yes.
I'm not doing the May ones yet.
April 20th and 22nd. All in favor? All opposed? All right, motion passed. All right, we're tabling the others till I correct the 1 word.
Yep.
All right, so next on the agenda, we had easement sewer tap Beale Avenue.
Yep. That's correct.
There's not much to it. We have a request from a resident to, wants to tap into the sewer line that runs through some city property there off of Beale Avenue, and is asking for us to grant an easement. We'll obviously have to get, survey engineer or survey to show exactly where it is, where we need to be, but the first step is council approval to grant such an easement.
is this property located?
Michigan Drive, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go Michigan Drive out to Beale Avenue.
We're
Just,
just,
sorry.
yeah,
I just need
No, I was showing you the exact area where it's at, because this is the gentleman that needs it.
Right.
This is the gentleman that's gonna give him the easement, and then this gentleman needs an easement from us to get over to here,
so that's,
because this is where the sewer line runs.
I already have enough problems out there with the fact that there's water back up in people's yards.
spitball. approximately.
Is all of this gonna make that water issue out there worse?
No, it's just,
Where?
Have we looked into the gentleman who complained about the fact that his neighbor put a little barrier in to block water in his yard because he didn't want it going through his?
Is that Kennedy?
Yeah,
I just talked to him last week, and Bill, and told him if he wanted to run a line and bore underneath the road, tie into the catch basin across the road, he could do that.
okay, and have we looked into why there's all the water issue on the other side?
No drainage in the, you're talking back on the Lakewood subdivision back in there?
Yeah. That last
There was-
storm, we had a full river
Yeah.
coming out by Shaw's house.
There was drainage behind those homes that drained downhill to the west till maybe the second house. It used to be Chris Brown, the city engineer. And it went, there was a V between the two houses that drained out to the catch basin in the street. And more than likely, over the years of grass grows, you probably don't have that pathway anymore, but there was drainage that way. Because I knew when Chris was engineer, it got corrected at that time.
So it becomes a huge river back there.
Yeah,
And then
there
it,
was an area that came down through there. And
Oh,
when
yeah.
Mr. Harris built that, and they had the swale between the two houses to go out to the road. So it's probably not maintained, and that backyard drainage is an issue.
on both sides of Whetstone.
Well, on the east side, we just found where the storm pile was cut off, and they put the sanitary line down Michigan Drive. I just repaired that, put a catch basin in a month ago.
You mean the west side?
The west side, thank you, yeah, the west side. So that was just repaired here a month ago, when we found that.
Okay, so doing any of this new stuff's not gonna make things worse on everybody else out there?
No, that's a totally separated sanitary sewer system. You have to put in the early 80s. And that's separated, runs all the way down Harper Road.
So they're just asking for the right of way, and they're putting it in themselves.
yeah, they would have to, and we'll, obviously, they just need permission that you guys are willing to do it, and then we'll have to get the exact measurements, specifics of where it's going, so it can be recorded, and we'll bring back an ordinance to you, proving that.
If I may, that strip of ground is in the city's name. It's actually an extension of the corridor for Michigan, that when there was additional lot split, the gentleman was basically asked to dedicate that to the city in case Michigan Drive would ever need to be extended. And we also had the existing sanitary sewer in there. And so that was maintained for future use instead of having a long dead end if it was ever requested or asked for. Same worded.
So we need to make a motion.
Well,
Or
you
just-
just need to be in agreement that you're okay with the easement, we'll get the exact details. The homeowner will obviously have to work with Mr. McKeever and Mr. Dunn to find out exactly where it needs to be, where the best place to tap in is, and we'll get the measurements and the survey of exactly where that's going to be, and we'll bring the ordinance to you. Those details.
Okay,
So there's,
I'll make a motion then.
okay, Ms. Truca's making a motion, second by McKeever.
Well, it won't be, it's just that you guys are in agreement with going forward, and then we'll bring back a full ordinance, probably in a
In other words, we're just agreeing that they can do this.
Well, I just wondered, I thought that guy wanted to start building pretty quick.
Yeah, he'll get, once he gets the drawings back to us, maybe as early as the next meeting or
Yeah, I got that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so go ahead and start looking into that, I guess. Then ordinance 13/2021, why is this back on? It just had to be corrected and voted on. We didn't have to take it back through public lands. That one wasn't sent back to committee. It was just sent for corrections.
Hold on a second, please. I'll check my email here.
Because I requested that it got put in there?
I thought that email you sent me this afternoon after I sent out the initial package. You said, right?
Yeah, it was, that one was my mistake. Because we needed it for the full committee, or full council meeting
You said
versus,
the audit is still missing the 13-2021.
and all the minutes. So, yeah,
That's what that big stack is all the minutes in your packet.
appreciate it.
But you said at 3:01 PM today, you sent me an email, said, this is still missing 13-2021, so that's why I put it in the
Okay,
packet.
yeah, no, that's why I said, that was my mistake. I was picturing full council minutes, or packet. So, I was on the wrong day of the week. Again, it's been a long week. But thank you very, very much for the layout, by the way. Does anybody else have anything else for public lands? Any questions? Wait, what do you have?
All the minutes. The one that had this. The doors and the
Yeah.
numbering, and Bruce, just another thing I noted here, the numbering goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 8.
Oh, yeah, awesome, thank you. Anything else? Any questions? All right, I recess public lands at 6:27 PM.
I will call health and safety order at 6:27 PM. Members present are Bruce Truca, James Mead, Mark McKeever, and myself as chair. You have before you the minutes from Thursday, April 27th, which we read through Tuesday night. Any wish for approval of any questions?
Second.
Motion by Mr. McKeever with a second by Mr. Truca. Any discussion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes. And those minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is EMS, Chief Schwemley. Floor is yours.
All right, as everybody knows, if they've read the newspaper, we've got currently we have 4 townships that would like to be part of our EMS service when it comes to, when we take over on November 1. So what I'm looking for is a resolution to allow the service director to enter into a contract with any of the townships for a $53 per capita fee. Of those 4 townships that were interested, it's Bucyrus, Dallas, Holmes, and Lycans. And that $53 subsidy with the current population number that I have would be $175,907.
Were you able to figure out if those are the 2020 census numbers or the 2010 census numbers?
The latest numbers that we had that we've been using for, through from the county auditor through the sheriff's office, that's what everybody's paying their per capita share on the alert and 911 contracts that we
Okay.
have.
So we're not sure which census that comes out of?
Correct.
Okay. I'm assuming that and anybody in the room has any knowledge, I'm assuming the 2020 census numbers are available to us because there's been in the news redistricting talk already, so are those numbers already out? Does anybody know?
I haven't found them yet.
Okay. All right.
I know that we just got another phone call about more information from our household.
Okay.
So Chief, you're asking for a resolution that allows the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract with any of the townships that want to, because there's still a few that are in play, I understand?
Yes, there's still the potential for possibly a couple others in play. They're having another meeting tonight, and they're trying to, figure out what's best for them.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can you name the 4 townships? I'm sorry, I have not read it on.
It was
Bucyrus.
Bucyrus, Dallas, Holmes, and Lycus.
Okay, thank you.
Bruce, did you have a question?
Well, I was just curious. I haven't ever seen any plan yet, and I haven't heard about the plan.
For EMS, so
Yeah.
what this does is, this
Yes.
allows us to pick up a couple more people in manpower to more or less help with the overall coverage. And it also, the estimated, I guess I should mention that too, the estimated billing that'll bring in is around 42,000. So, a grand total there is around a little over 200,000. So it gives us with the potential on that of picking up about right around 200 runs. So that area, it's one of those, it's what we've, the mayor's been talking about, trying to help out our neighbors, because there's not enough runs in those areas for them to do it on their own. And most of them, they want full-time coverage. They want to know that they've got an ambulance coming.
So 53 per capita is going to give you about 200,000.
Correct.
Well, 175,907 is the per capita, and then the 42,000 will be from the bills.
With the
That's
rate,
it.
it was a little over
The two together is about 220.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That answer your question, Bruce?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay.
What are their intentions to increase the manpower with the fire department, and to what levels?
So, okay, so we have, currently we've hired 2 more. We're looking at hiring a third one here, coming up shortly. It's, we're trying to bring them in steps. That way we can work on their training and stuff, and not getting everybody all at once. For the past couple weeks, we've been on standby quite a bit, but Portsmouth has been a little bit better in their staffing. We haven't had too many runs to pick up. So we're just trying to make that curve and make sure that we're covered once, November 1 gets here. We've still waiting on some word for the, part of the other delay is on hiring some more, is waiting on the potential of the SAFER and also the Restoration Act.
So, November 1st, when we do take over the ambulance service, you intend on being staffed at what level?
It's gonna depend on, put you on your microphone, John.
I'm sorry. I'm usually pretty good about that. November 1st, what level do you intend on being staffed at for when we're ready to take over?
Right now, we're looking at 6.
Per shift?
Yes.
And is that including Bucyrus, Dallas, Holmes, and Lycans? Are you anticipating having to hire more because we're taking on these extra townships?
We're looking at hiring a couple more just so that it'll help curb some
Overtime?
and stuff.
Absolutely.
Bruce?
In the overall scheme, do you look to see about making any granny runs as a profit,
No,
as a moneymaker of any sort?
Not at this time. It's about the only thing that we will do, and it's not, those aren't even granny runs, we consider them emergency, is we'll take emergency transfers from Bucyrus Hospital over to Galleon. But that's just, those are, because they're a walk-in STEMI or whatever, that, that they need emergency transport. It's more or less they need emergency transport over. The granny runs, The staffing and trying to do them is not, more or less what it does is it takes away from our emergency services if we were to try to do that. And so that's why we're trying to stay away from it.
Well, I was just trying to ask, Galleon doesn't do that then?
Correct, they do
Okay.
not.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, real quick, if I want to clarify, because I think maybe if you don't understand like what STEMI means and things like that, Galleon has a cath lab, we do not here. So if you're a STEMI, it's a heart attack. If you're having a heart attack, you need to go to a cath lab. You walk in here, they're going to immediately send you, somewhere that can treat it. So that's why he said a run like that might be considered emergent versus, you stub your toe and my doctor's in Galleon. Well, we're not going to do that. But, something that has a need, a stroke, a heart attack, traumas and things like that.
So they'll run them to that facility
Yeah.
that's capable?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I was going to ask, as soon as the townships make their decision, which we think is going to be very soon, we'll be reaching out to the hospital and the nursing homes and, make sure they're covered on their totes. So, yes, we're not going to let that go high in the grade either. We'll see if we can make some arrangements for someone to come and take care of that. Like the chief said, it's not typical that professional fire departments do that, but we'll make sure that there's somebody here going to cover that.
What's your avenues? Who's going to do that?
Who's going to do that? What did you do?
To the nursing home. To the nursing home.
They normally contract with those are contracted.
I don't know, that's why
Okay,
I asked.
yeah, those are normally contracted through private companies.
There's approximately 300 private ambulance services in the state of Ohio, the last time that I counted, and there's no shortage of them. They're all fighting for that business. So the moment this happens, whether Portsmouth stays here to do some business or if they just vanish, you're going to see 2 and 3 and 4 other companies. And if you pay attention around town, you'll see a couple different ambulances, different colors, different names on them. And they're doing runs, in the area and around the area. And they're all going into these nursing homes and trying to sign contracts with them. So there's going to be no shortage of that business. And the same would go for the runs that go out of the hospital to go to other hospitals that are not as emergent, is something like the heart attacks and strokes. There's ample companies out there that are vying for that money.
So that's profitable for them, but not for us as a professional.
Correct, because I guess what the thing does is it takes away from emergency services.
Okay. I just didn't understand.
Yeah, and one of the things that makes them profitable, and that's what my background was in, and I used to dispatch for a company like that in Columbus, and if we were talking about just our fire department, well, the chances for them to pick up a private run really exist out of 3 nursing homes and 1 hospital. So if I'm looking at a private ambulance service that's more regionalized, now they're looking at 40 nursing homes and 15 hospitals. So, and as one of those employees, I'm on the road all day long, bouncing all around the state, not just in the city. So that's where, company XYZ that's based in Mansfield, Ohio, might be picking up people in Ashland, Galleon, you name it.
Bucyrus,
So, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
I got a question. What's the status on getting the final Kramer?
Mike.
Oh. What's the status on the final Kramer report? We got the draft, but that was several weeks ago.
Rob, have you heard anything on that?
I have not. I'll follow up.
I actually have one more question. What is the number of employees to just have the fire department staffed without ambulance service? What was our normal? Are we just reaching normal? That's what I'm saying. Are we just reaching normal and trying to throw EMS on there?
No, we're going above.
Okay. That was my question.
Yeah, several years ago, we were at 16, where we were, and we were at that for several years. But it's, right now, we're back up to 15. So we're gradually there, and then we'll go above where we were at.
To pick up ambulance service?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we're seeking a motion to allow the service director to enter into contracts with townships to offer them emergency medical services.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first by Mr. Me and a second by Mr. Truca. Any other discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That motion carries. And Chief, you'll work with the Law Director's Office with the wording, and then they can present that to us when that's ready?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Any other unfinished or open business that anybody wishes to discuss with health and safety this evening? All right, hearing none, recessed at 6:40 PM.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started at 6:40 PM then. Members present, Kevin Myers, Lisa Alsup, and C. Aaron Sherrick.
This is the first.
Correct.
I just want to state.
I'm sorry. Probably don't have anything about airport fueling already. Maybe Lynn could tell us a little something about airplanes and fueling stations, and maybe he's been other places that have fueling stations. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Tuesday night, we asked Kevin maybe to look into having an automated fueling station, and he stated that, that they were expanding. There was many different airports that were smaller airports that actually have automated systems, and you can fly in and pick up your gas, and it's like driving a car, you just pump your own gas. I just wanted to know if you had any experience with anything like that yourself.
Yes, I have. And I do know that Galleon does have a self-serve, and Marion's just installing a self-serve, and there's a lot of them around the country with self-serve. And your tank is a fairly newer tank. It's adequate. All it would mean is taking the old pump off, putting a newer pump on with the credit card vending device in it. And so, I know from being out there that Kevin's been thinking about this, and it might be a good time with the other improvements going on, and with the availability of federal funds to help out.
Right.
So
really, we're at a standstill till we get an estimate, right?
Yes.
And Kevin's gonna get that, I believe is what he said to you.
Yes, yeah, he said he would. Okay.
Well, when he gets it, I'll vote for it.
So did we have to give him a go-ahead to get the estimate?
No, I don't think so.
Is that 80,000 that got returned to us able to be spent on that?
Sure, it should be.
I think it goes back to the general fund, and we can put it where we need it, right?
And who knows, maybe somebody will help us a 5% or 10% out of that yet. Who knows?
Would be nice.
Possibility, but it'd be really a nice thing, I think.
Hey, anything you can do to get people to want to stop here, I think that's great.
Okay, well, thank you. Next order of business was dumpsters for a cleanup. That was brought up by.
There was a large article in the paper about how Galleon handled it. I tagged you on it. Did you read it?
Part of it.
Sorry.
I didn't get to read all of it, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I liked how they handled it.
Where was it at? The newspaper?
Yes.
Our newspaper? Or?
No.
If you think about it, send that out. I'd like to see that too.
Okay, I'll have to look in my activity level to see where it was. I think it was Richland Source maybe, but they set up dumpsters in the center of, I don't want to say the center of town, not the square, but they allowed citizens free use of it. They were allowed to bring 4 items, and it could be a mattress, dresser, whatever they had. They emptied it when it needed empty, and there was someone there to monitor it. They checked their address, their driver's license, to make sure that they were a member of the community. It was on their cleanup day.
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, we've talked about it, and I know I made a request of the service director, and we were told, hey, we've got to just if we can find the money somewhere, and I think that's what it's gonna boil down to. I think everybody
Just
thinks
got
it's a good idea.
$80,000 back.
Right, I mean, everybody thinks it's a good idea. I like that system there where you're making sure it's a resident.
Yeah, they're making sure that they're a
You know, you're
resident.
policing, you know, they're not bringing 642 items in with them.
Right.
And let's face it, the stuff that people are gonna wanna bring in and get rid of, hopefully, is some of the stuff that's laying around, you know, that you can see in their yards and driveways, and not maybe other attics and basements, but hey, whatever. I think it's something I'd like to look at. I mean, years ago, we did it.
Go ahead.
Here's the problem now, I have no dumpsters.
You sold our dumpsters?
I have 12 to 15 bad ones out there, no money to repair them right now. Actually, I went up and took mirrors from his store just to take out to a customer, another customer. So right now, they're basically coming in and going right back out.
I think when they did it years and years ago that I remember, though, we don't even have any large, you know,
Yeah, we don't have
dumpsters.
large
So, I mean, that might be something we gotta talk to Rumpke or Connex or somebody about. I think, you know, we're talking about mattresses and stuff like that. I don't know that our dumpsters are appropriate.
No, they're not.
So I think we'd have to,
The great
you
big,
know,
long, flat ones?
yeah, I think we'd have to get some estimates. You know, I don't know if that's something that you guys could look into,
The other
or,
issue, if I may, is the solid waste fund, which is under a lot of stress. I mean, so that's gonna cost us money, we can't, it's just not free. We gotta pay for that then at the landfill. And so Joyce isn't here tonight, but she could probably speak to the needs of that fund before we do anything. We can look at it.
absolutely.
Yeah, can't we cushion, I mean,
Well-
I've seen how money gets moved. There's gotta be a way to put some money in that fund for us to be able, there was a $12,000 floor scrubber bought with CARES Act money. So there can be some money for some dumpsters put in there.
That's an enterprise fund.
It sure is.
I think what I'd like to see, though, can we get some estimates from, and I don't know whether that's on us or on you guys, but call Rumpke's, call Connex, get some quotes to say, hey, if you could get me blank amount of dumpsters for 1 weekend, and then we figure out a ballpark estimate of the tonnage and get an estimate from the landfill, what it's gonna cost to bring out. Maybe I don't know if they'd be willing to cut you a deal for 1 weekend.
I'm guessing, they would probably price it right in their dumpster costs.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And so I think once we have those numbers, then we can make, you know, if you come back to us and tell us that's gonna be $250,000, well, that's
Right.
not feasible.
Right.
If you come back and tell us that it's gonna be, you know, $10,000, well, maybe it's worth $10,000 to get things cleaned up. That's what, I think we need the number to know how to make a good decision.
I got it.
I'll get those.
Thank you.
On a rough estimate, Mons will charge you about $350 for a dumpster.
20-yard dumpster?
Yes. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
20 yards.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one, it's 20 yards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You said how much?
It's about 350 last time I checked.
Connex here in town has some.
Okay.
I got a question for Jeff Dunn. Jeff, is there a way that we could, you know, get something together and look at how much steel we would need? And maybe is there a local company that would be willing to sell us steel at a reasonable cost, and see if we could
Yeah.
repair those dumpsters? Because, I mean, they're,
Mechanic has been repairing them. but
I mean, it's a
most
revenue
basically used up
type
this year
thing.
already. Brian's repaired 5 of them this year, and just, you know, the funds are used up, so, underneath the new equipment line for solid waste, I don't believe there's any money left in there to buy more dumpsters. I'd rather repair the ones we have, you know, at a lesser cost. So my goal is, we got 3, 4s, and 6s. I'm gonna make up some type of prints or something, basically get Lynn to do it so I can hand it to a, repair shop, and basically bend up the pieces so we can set them in there and weld them in ourselves. Instead of doing 4 or 5 pieces, just have like 2 pieces set in there and the side pieces in, we'll just tack weld everything in there and get the dumpster back out there. A quicker way of fixing it, just to fix the problem, I guess.
Curiosity, there's a company on the east side of the railroad tracks on Oakwood Avenue that bends steel. Do they bend steel of that nature?
Brian Rivers talked to a couple different ones. They didn't honestly want to get into it too much. time-wise for the amount we had to do at that time. Place over by Upper, we've been talking to, they're interested in bending the pieces up for us.
Okay, thank you.
The one company just happened to move from Baja Boats out there. He was just too much going on. I mean, he was on his list for that to happen, but it just never did. He was too busy. And now he's busier yet, busy, out there at his new shop now, so, we just gotta look somewhere else.
Mike checked with him again. I talked to him about another project yesterday, and he was willing to get started on it, so
Oh, okay.
it'd be worth a check.
Yep, have Brian check on it again.
Okay, Kurt.
How many dumpsters approximately do we have that need repaired?
I think it's around 15, 12 to 15. And I think somebody's raised the price out there because there's more demand for them now. We used to be higher than the other companies. And I think somebody raised their price and now they're asking us for ours.
Mark?
Jeff, do we not have a tandem axle dump truck or a couple of those?
We have one at this time. It's in Tiffin, Ohio right now, getting some engine work done on it. The other one, we just had the body put on. I was supposed to pick it up today. I should have it by next week, so we would have two of them.
Could we not, since renting the dumpsters costs $370-some, could we not use possibly a front-end loader and put them in those,
Sure.
instead of renting another thing that costs us more money? And we're gonna have to have a person there.
We'd have a person there regardless then, I mean, for
And
loading
they
and plus
could
checking IDs.
put them in our tandem axle dumps, which are rather large, can take a larger load than those 20 cubic. And it'd be just the cost of using the front end loader and hauling it out there by that vehicle instead of paying $300 to rent. Just a thought. I'm not saying.
I would say you could do that.
Anybody got something yet? Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
You could get your front end loader and have a guy come in on Saturday or something, give him a little extra couple hours, overtime, so that maybe once a month we could have like a cleanup Saturday. And, however much it costs us to pay his overtime and dump a couple loads at the landfill once a month, sounds like all the cost we'd have.
Go ahead, Lynn.
As a landlord of facilities, I would fill a 20-yard dumpster and then some with 30 homes. And I was doing that once a year. I do know, I didn't read the article, didn't see it, but the first year they had a cleanup out by East Park, and there was many tons of material came in from outside the city. And if you are doing that, that means that you need somebody there full-time anytime that the area is receiving trash. So if you have an open area, you're going to get a lot of stuff. I had in my facilities, which are manufactured homes, many double-hung windows with lead weights show up in my dumpsters, and that's why I quit using dumpsters. I now have roll-off, 50 gallon, like we would have in our own homes. So it isn't as simple maybe as it sounds because of the abuse. Anytime there's a good situation presented to people, other people find a way of abusing it. So it just, from experiences,
Might be something we want to reach out to Gallion and see. I'm sure they've learned, like he said, from their mistakes. I imagine that's why they're checking driver's license. We might be able to get some guidance from them.
We used to do that for the landfill, or the mulch pile. The mulch pile, we used to do that.
I know at one time, we had an operation through the county, and we had done it at the fairgrounds where they brought, the county officials had front-end loaders, payloaders, and they collected tires that one year. But I mean, for us as a city, it's kind of a tightrope that we have to walk because of tires. You know, how do we get rid of the tires even as a city? And the other one is building materials. That goes to a different, separate part of the landfill. That costs extra, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
$6.80 something a ton.
That's actually cheaper than what we pay.
but then to follow up with Lisa, is this like you're asking for a one-time thing, or you're once a month, or once every 6 months, or?
Even if it's just once a year and it's a spring cleanup, it's got to make some,
Try it once and see
yeah,
how it goes.
make a
Maybe continue
difference.
If it works.
Well, to follow up with Mayor Reeser, we went ahead, I mean, we do have a spring cleanup once a year.
Yeah.
And I'm never sure exactly how much extra money that costs us. I mean, that would be a Joyce
I
thing.
don't have the weight
no.
on that, yeah, I can find out, though.
But, I mean, I'm not,
Check you, do you?
not against the idea, I'm just saying that we gotta figure out where are we gonna be able to.
The spring cleanup, though, I think people are limited to something that goes in a bag, and they give you 6 extra bags.
Yeah, 6 bags or 6 cans.
Yeah, this is more
A lot of
like,
people don't take advantage of it.
right, I didn't this year.
Yeah, a lot of people don't take advantage of it.
You know, and I can get an entire toilet in one garbage bag.
Yeah. Yep.
That should be an extra $10 bill for the weight.
I probably got it too.
Pick it up without the breaking.
Yeah, double bag.
I'll be interested to get the figures.
Okay.
Cal, check into it, yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody else got anything? No? Okay. And I have no minutes, so that's good. All right, move. Well, I don't have it on there.
It ain't, but came up. Can you tell us what about the Kincora today?
Actually, I haven't even talked to the administration about it yet, so I'd rather not get too much into it. It's gonna cost more, I can say it's gonna cost more than what we thought, the repairs out there. I have to get with Lynn to come up with a cost on it and get with the administration, not back with them, get with them. The service director's off, and I ain't even talked to the mayor about it yet today. We basically dug it open, and it's gonna start caving in on us. And Lynn and I met with the contractor, basically told him to fill it back in. We're gonna come up with a different solution, how to fix it, which is gonna replace the storm and the sanitary at the same time. And some of the roadway will end up probably falling in. So we'll get back with you guys. If it falls within my budget lines, I won't have to come back to see you. Don't know it this time.
Okay.
You get a chance.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. Wait. If it gets fixed, part of the roadway will fall in? What? That was confusing for a second. I'm
All
sorry.
right, you asked for it, here you go.
Oh, my God.
Sanitary sewers at this level, that was where our problem was. When they constructed it, they put the storm sewer right here. And they backfilled it all with 57s. And the roadway is right here. And when you dig out the sanitary and the 57 aggregate rolls down, it takes the storm sewer with it, which exposes the curb had to come out for the small portion that we tore out, which exposes the stone and the asphalt. And more than likely, there's only so much they can shore up without part of the road sloughing off.
So was that one of our roads that was getting fixed this year?
No, because well, it's a good thing, because we probably will have the roads done before that gets done again, because it won't be available for a while. But we were doing it, this is one where Tim Lutz was in and wanted to build the 3 homes a year for the next 9 years. So it would be good to let him get down the road a little on that before we resurface that area.
Right.
So, and it's in decent shape at this point, the roadway, but we'll have to fix what we are. And we knew, let's see, the timing wasn't right for the contractor. He had his fill-in spot. He's required to be elsewhere. And so he called us and said, look, this is too big a project. I'm going to be here a week or so, type of deal. And so we just agreed to backfill it for right now and deal with it. And we didn't have the funds available at this point yet to authorize him to proceed ahead. So we just needed to back up because of the way. When they constructed it the first time, it wasn't bad because they put the sanitary in, then cover it up with stone, and then set the storm sewer in, and then cover this all up with stone. So it worked out fine, but when you're trying to do repairs on that, it makes it difficult. A lot of people like using the 57 aggregate because it's easy, and when you put it in, it's basically compressed. It can't be, you can beat on it all day long, and basically it doesn't settle anymore. But this is the downside of that.
Self-compacted.
So that's fine.
There's even a gas line right there to deal with on top of all of this.
We got a 3-inch gas line over the sanitary that we're holding off to the side. So
Fun times.
We just need to back up and regroup the moment. We're hoping it's still, we knew about 70 foot. We'll keep it to that limits. We don't want to go from manhole to manhole, which is 400 foot. We want to keep it, all of us want to keep it tight.
Is Mr. Lutz still gonna be able to proceed with the 3 houses this year? Or?
He can go. Yeah, he wasn't gonna build there as far as I knew. I think he was elsewhere over in the center or the far side, so he can in and out. Traffic's maintained. And Jeff talked to the lady where we dug up our front yard and gave her an explanation, and she's okay with it. We told her we'd be back to fix it in a little while.
Anybody else? Okay, who's got a cell phone?
It's 7:02.
7:02, I will adjourn.
I'll call finance order at 7:02. Members present, Kevin Myers, Bruce Truca, Jim Mee, and myself, Chair. Okay, you have the minutes in front of you. April 8th, April 20th, April 22nd, April 27th, and May 6th. The April 8th and the 22nd have been corrected from what I'm seeing here. I didn't see any, the only one I see is April 20th, where it says, I recessed finance, it should say number 7, not 6. But it's showing all the other corrections in there. And the special finance for April 27th, I do believe this has all the corrections in it also. This was the one for the appropriating of money for the Chief Schwemley for the hiring, for the training, fire training.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'll move to approve the April 8th minutes as presented, the April 20th, or as presented, the April 20th minutes as amended, the April 22nd minutes, and the April 27th minutes as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Are there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, and the May 6th we'll look over, and since it's 3 pages long, I'm not going to read it. We'll look it over and
please offer any. And I already see a
Yes.
numbering error, so some of the numbering needs to be changed. It went from 2 to 6, so we'll get that corrected. If you see anything else, please bring that up. We'll skip the dumpsters for cleanup because,
Chairman, sorry to interrupt. I know Tuesday was a long time ago for me, but I thought we had referred CDBG sidewalks on Tuesday night.
yeah, they were.
What, are we gonna speak about that tonight?
I don't have any information here, but yeah,
I have Kate Seifert here. I asked Kate.
Right.
Linda, is it gonna be brought up tonight?
Yeah, we can bring that. We had it referred
It
for
is now.
tonight.
I just don't see it on the agenda.
No, she's here. Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that first so she can be on her way. So
Yeah, she's a very patient, but
Yes.
she's very busy.
So we need information, Mr. Mayor.
Health Department, they've done tremendous work for the city and the county for the last, forever, especially in the last, I'll go over here. Is my mic on there? Yep. Okay. You all know Kate, don't you? So, yeah, so. Nope. So, what Kate has asked, if we would consider a sidewalk on East Street, on Isaac Beale and East, out to, well, that would be on the east side of the road, to allow pedestrians who walk to the health department some safety, so they don't have to walk into the street. We've applied for that funding through CDBG funding. And, go ahead. On Isaac Beale, you know where the health department is, Jim?
The old Baja.
Yeah, I corrected myself, east, and it turns into Isaac Beale.
Charlotte turning and going over the tracks and then.
East Charlotte out to the health department. So it would start actually
At the tracks.
on the south side of the tracks is where it would go. And so I asked, and then we also applied also for the Walmart sidewalk too. And Lynn's here to answer questions. We're not sure about, funding is going to be, but they're here to answer any question, maybe talk about a little the need. So I asked Kate to be here to talk about the need. So I'm going to turn it over to her. Okay? And answer questions.
It's not a huge number of clients that come out, but we do get them year-round that do walk out. And now that Hordes has their truck wash facility across the street from us, and we still have the city trucks, we still get quite a bit of traffic out there, even though right now a lot of the industries behind us are shut down. We don't have a line of GE behind us or IB Tech and some of those others, but there were times about 17 months ago. It was pretty busy out there, and there would also be workers for those factories that would walk out. We would see them from our office, we could see them walking out to get to work. So they do walk on the road. We've had people push their strollers on the road because neither side has a sidewalk. So with the garage there and with Horde's truck wash on the west side, it would make sense to put the sidewalk on the east side, which would be the closest side to our office, and then also the industries behind us. On the curve? Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, most of that area is their driveway, so your
Okay.
sidewalk would start kind of at that tree
Stop.
line, the tree line there, and run down.
Start past that.
Would the city maintain that as far as in the winter? I mean, somebody has to. Just saying. I was looking at you, Jeff Dunn.
If you get them another person's interested.
Yeah.
They were amazing to us earlier this year.
I'm thinking they're right across there.
Well, and they were kind when we were having our vaccine clinics for the 80-plus population. And one of our limitations we found was our parking lot, that we would get quite the large crowd. And when we had a lot of snow, the company that plowed our driveway in our parking lot for us, they made a huge pile in our parking lot that took up about 4 spaces. So when I called your department, they graciously came down, and somebody spent about 2 hours of over his lunch break even, moving snow for us. So we greatly appreciated that. So
you do have somebody that comes and does your lot. They would do your sidewalks too.
yes. they would do the sidewalk part, but probably not the whole way down.
Right, well, see, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, this is the winter.
Yeah.
We'll figure
And even if it didn't run, it wouldn't probably need to run all the way down to Beale, probably just to the driveways there, to those industries. What you got, Lynn?
The length of the project is 1,700 foot of sidewalk. It goes to starts at the railroad tracks, Charlotte, and we gotta do something to get across without them getting hurt. And along the east side, but we were gonna stop dead center in front of your facilities so you can have a sidewalk, and we'll get a gate through the fence.
Oh.
And then you
You're getting
walk in
fancy.
where you got it corridored off into your front door. But you're correct, I did not take it all the way to Beale Avenue.
Yeah.
It didn't warrant. There will be some right-of-way issues that finally resurfaced after 30 years. And we need to be behind the poles across from the city garage. And the poles are on the right-of-way line, so we need to talk to Eagle Crusher about that. And then their fence, at some point, is within the city's right-of-way, and at some points, it is on their own private property. And we'll need to do that because the road used to go up and have a square intersection. And then there was an addition put onto the steel company years ago, and that's when they did the survey and made the curve. And vacated because we actually have a sanitary sewer manhole sitting up there in their property that used to be the center, and we actually have sanitary sewer runs under the south end of their building. So it's nothing major. I just wanted to say it's not as simple as just putting a 4-foot ribbon of concrete. There will be a little to make it proper.
Do you have an estimate for cost?
$148,162.11.
That's just for this project,
Yes,
not the Walmart project?
that is correct.
Okay. Are we doing these as two separate things, or are we talking about them as one whole thing with the CDBG application?
That's your decisions.
Well, we two separate.
So,
We've already filled out the pre-apps for it.
okay, so what do you need from us tonight? Do we need,
We're just here to
you're just informing us?
informing you, and, because they're not going to, we want you to be aware of it, because one or both may get funded, or they may not get funded, and they may get funded partially, and then we want you to be aware of it, and we say we get 50% funding, we'll have to come back and say, okay, this is what is requested of the city, are we willing to do that? So we just wanted you to keep you apprised of it. I think the final application is not due till sometime in June.
I don't know.
Okay.
So we don't,
No, go ahead.
so we don't have a better chance of throwing them together? I've been, not that I'm throwing you under the bus, but
Yeah.
I've been, I think at Walmart for a long time. And is there a way we can go together?
Well, there's only a set amount of funds available for the county, and, and there'll be other applications.
And some of the same clients that go to her place go to Walmart.
Pretty much.
And there'll be Aldi's also out
And
there.
now there's gonna be all these out there.
Yeah, I know it's important, both of them are important.
Sorry.
The one at Walmart is substantially more expensive.
How much is that?
Well, the sidewalk on Kate's portion, what you think is the sidewalk on Kate's portion, sorry, Kate, we named it after you, was 37,000 of the 148 is the sidewalk. And the rest is prep in the area. There's a pile of dirt across from the city garage that goes up 4 to 5 feet that we'll have to shelf and dig and lay, and then we'll possibly need to relocate part of Eagle Crusher's fence in the back because it's on and off the property, And actually, to lighten you on the property, the green grass on the north side of the city garage fence, where your city garage sign is, that's all Eagle Crusher's property. So it's just been occupied a little bit.
I'm sorry.
And we need to straighten that out. But to answer your question, Mark, the 3,000 foot from Penn Avenue to Aldi's is $447,170.28. And the 4-inch sidewalk is 68,000. I mean, the width of the sidewalk is 48,000. Excuse me.
The cost of the sidewalk,
Concrete walk, 68,400 is the sidewalk. It's 4 inches thick, and that's the number I kept getting. What we have set up there is, it is permissible to have the paint stripe in a paved area, differentiating a walk area from the traveled area in low volume traffic areas. Like if we had one of our residential subdivisions, we could do that. But we have now passed over out on East Mansfield to one of our higher volume, and it's recommended that you have a 6-inch elevated curb to separate and protect the people from cars coming over, which then you're also supposed to have a 2-foot buffer area between the traveled portion and the 4-foot sidewalk. So now our sidewalk becomes 6 foot because we have to take that portion out and have the handicap ADA requirements for the passing back and forth once we build that. When we did the curbs, we had to put catch basins in. And there's, more money in there. Now, we're fortunate that there is a tile line running from Walmart all the way down to across from the car wash, and then it goes north. So we don't have to run sewer. We just got to put catch basins and drops in. But that's where this extra cost comes to have you, and we will keep the 3 12-foot lanes in there for the traveling public and vehicular traffic. But we need the extra, and there is 2 light poles, I feel, that will probably move back. But they're not the power poles, they're the light poles. So we have that figured in also. And just purely the length. But we did take it all the way out to the east side of Aldi's with our estimate. So.
Oh, it's you, yeah. I was looking at Bruce, sorry.
Everybody's looking at you.
Sorry, we moved over to the next committee, sorry. On the CDBG, is it the commissioners that make the final decision, or is there a different board, or?
The commissioners are in charge now with all the money, CDBG money in the county.
So if a resident of our community wanted to send a letter of support, would they send that to the commissioners?
I would, yeah.
I think that's worth noting that people in the community that feel that this is an important project could reach out to the commissioners and share how they feel about it, and that the safety of the people walking is important, and that we feel this is a viable project.
And Mr. Trugan, good thing I was sitting down and I worked my estimate out too, because I didn't think it would get that.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Kurt, you'll be next. Could we not go from Otto Avenue? I'm just asking. I don't know. That'd be a straight shot.
For
the sidewalk.
You mean Penn Avenue?
If you owned it.
I would just.
We had actually set up for, with the last expansion that went in, back in behind Walmart, we lined the road up so it comes straight across to Otto Avenue. And we had a detention basin figured so it didn't flood through the golf course and cross the road down to that area west of Wayne. Penn.
Just an idea.
Yes, to answer you, we can do anything. In this world today, it's just how much.
Okay. Kurt?
I think your favorite landlord owns that property.
Plus, who's gonna walk all the way
Mr. Strauss?
back up to the railroad tracks and then go east?
Just.
I mean,
Does
and
that,
then you gotta build a roadway yet on top of it besides the sidewalk.
what was the total build cost of Walmart?
447,000.
Did that have the curbs in it?
Yes, sir. Curbs, sidewalks.
How much of it was curbs?
Just a minute here. That's six. Combination curb and gutter, 60,000.
The curbs is in the original levy ballot language for the street fund, so that money could pay for that.
Yeah, curbing is, yes.
And I got about 100,000 in storm drainage improvements too.
Which could come out of the storm fund.
Not my call. But, and, you know, you could take it out of that, you know.
You notice that Glenn said this was from Penn Avenue. We're not including going back from Wayne Avenue back to Whetstone because we've got a storm project that has to go up through there yet. So we decided not to do that part of it.
That's a 10,000 foot. So it'd be 25, you know, another 100,000.
So the CDBG, is it 100% grant, or if it happens?
All the money that you get is grant, but if the grant doesn't cover your project, you pay 100% of the balance.
Mark. We got money though, right now, Mr. Ratliff, we have money, for, infrastructure. How much money do we have for infrastructure? That, from our, sale of our Burger King property and, isn't like 65,000 we are setting on right now?
I don't know, I have to ask Joyce. What's in that capital improvement fund?
I was thinking 55 or 60.
I'm gonna pull it up on a trial balance right now, Bruce.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any more questions for Kate before she leaves?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Your administration has been
Could I-
extremely supportive of our office over the last 17 months, and that's very appreciated.
Could I ask Katie a question? Mattresses
Yes.
are a major obstacle to pick up today because of bed bugs and everything else. I know that when they got dumped out on some of the county roads, they would no longer send guys out to pick them up because of the bed bug issues or whatever. And until they could actually get a mechanical device to pick them up, they did not handle mattresses. So-
Yeah, it's still a problem, because people don't want that running against them and having them drop off on them, and they get in their vehicle and they get in their homes and things like that. So, yeah.
If we're running around picking up mattresses, I just wanted, that's something to think about.
Yeah. Well, Galleon has a grant for their cleanup.
Speak to me.
It's through EPA. They usually get that through the EPA.
Okay.
It has a lot of restrictions, and it doesn't really fully cover the cost, but it helps offset it. And then you have to watch the waste stream as far as separating your household hazardous waste from your infectious waste, from your construction and demolition debris, from your regular municipal solid waste, because that'll all get sorted and it gets charged different rates out of the landfill. So it's not just checking IDs, but you're also gonna have to identify the waste being brought in so that you're putting it in the right stream.
No, I'm saying.
Do you know who I would contact over there to discuss that with them? Like, who could put me in the right direction?
Start with Matt Eckleberry.
Yeah, probably. And then Brian Rockwell out of the landfill would end up being a resource because of the flow control of the county, so all the waste in the county must go to the landfill. So he somehow gets to him and sorted out there.
What did you say his name was again?
Because then you're also gonna have recyclables that go through Brian, and Brian oversees the solid waste district.
What was his last name?
Rockwell.
Oh, and they'll separate your e-waste out as well, because that will go through the recycle center, any of your e-waste.
All right, Kurt.
Back to Bruce, what Bruce was saying, I'm just looking at the trial balance here, and there's a property improvement fund that has $41,000 unencumbered in it, and also a sidewalk improvement fund has $48,000 unencumbered.
Aaron.
My question, twofold. One, do we only have people going to the health department from Charlotte and that way? Because with the housing, I would have thought they came straight down Beale. Are people not coming out to the health department walking down Beale?
They usually come through town and come down East Street onto Beale.
Okay. And then the other thing is.
We do get occasionally, they will walk from like the McDonald's
Yeah,
area.
that's what I was.
That would, if you want to fill drains, sure, go ahead.
Well, no, because my first thought is, but we've been working on this Walmart one for how long? And that, now that we're getting Aldi out there, that's gonna be 10 times more traffic. We've already got people coming up the street with Walmart shopping carts, tripping on stuff, trying not to get hit by traffic. And now, we're adding more too out there. That's a lot of foot traffic for people that are going out there to get what they need to get by, food, cleaning supplies.
Yes, Lynn.
The one thing I wanted to also say, on the Beale one, since we are several feet behind the edge of pavement, I didn't need curbs or anything there. And we have a ditch which will need to be regraded and cleaned up, and I have a couple catch basins that need to fix. But we didn't need the expense of the curb and gutter the full length with that one. That helped the cost to the tune of $25 a foot. That's what a curb and gutter will cost today. But I did not need that. I wanted to explain that. Since I'm further back, I'll be 8 to 10 feet off the edge of pavement. So the safety to the people using that is fine until we get to the railroad tracks. We'll go over that.
Anybody else have any questions?
I got one thing. Even though it's in finance, it's not really in finance, but I got Lynn sitting there. I had referred the white line that doesn't exist on Beale Avenue. Is there a way that maybe you could look at it, how much it would cost to install a white line on the edge of the roadway for the people that are walking after dark on Beale Avenue? The lighting is really, it's non-existent out there. I mean, Mr. O'Rourke used to bring that up all the time, but.
That and Whetstone both.
But in the meantime, there is no white edge line at all.
You have right now basically insufficient width to have the 2 lanes of traffic, the white line, and then the 4 foot for the pedestrian.
So then.
I'm just saying, right now, you don't have enough. If we need to make that, you're going down the road. But you do have your high speed, and we just need to have some separation. And when they really want a 2 foot separation between when it's all level, before you get to your sidewalk area, I'll call it, or restriped for that purpose.
But I think Bruce is just asking for the street to have the white lines on it.
An edge line on the pavement?
Yes.
Not for any walking?
Yep.
No.
We can do that.
To help a
They're
car.
being paved this year.
Yeah, they're on the paving list this year.
Biggest thing is when there's people that are walking on that road.
I thought you wanted to.
No.
I have, yes, we can do that. We can do that one. That's not that big a deal.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions for the grant? If not, we'll move.
What's the CDBG, since I've never.
Community Development Block Grant.
Thank you.
The federal program is
I just didn't have the actual name. I've only ever heard it as the CBD. I know it stands for something, so.
Yes, Bruce.
I got one other question. Who was the last group that shared the money? Did Galleon get the money last time, or did another city get the money last time? And we are not in the line for funding?
Usually everybody kind of splits that up.
Okay, I thought we shared. I thought one year, one city got something.
That was several years ago with issue 1 or issue 2, based on whatever year it was. Go ahead, John.
It was Bucyrus, Galleon, and Crestline got the CDBG. All three entities got a portion of it last year.
Okay.
Ours was for, if I remember right, ours was for the sidewalks on River Street.
And Woodstone.
In Whetstone, yeah.
You are right, though, about the issue 1 money. We had a period of time where we were taking it 1 year to double up, and then we would let Galleon have it the next year. They would double it, that type of thing. But that changed when governments changed. I'll just leave it at that.
Aaron?
I have a question. With this new CareSource money coming in, and some of it's supposed to be in for infrastructure.
Not for sidewalks, though. It's limited to water, sewer, and broadband underground. Now, there may be a case, we'd have to, when we get more direction from the federal government, there may be a case that some of it could be used to the health department. Because that's, so you can go to health, I've got that in my head, and we're gonna kind of maybe look at that, see what we can, maybe get some clarification, but it does not work for Walmart. They made a specific point and said it's not to be used for things like, other than those 3 things.
Yeah.
In this last directive that came out May 10th.
Health and welfare of the citizens of Bucyrus.
Kurt?
Since Lynn's here, are we moving towards getting City Lot 3 repaved this year behind Dillinger's? I know there was a significant amount of work that needed done under the service.
We have a boundary survey, and we have that done. I do not have it on my schedule.
Because we put money in the budget this year for that.
We did.
Were we told they'd be at the top of the list?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
We were told we couldn't get it done at the end of last year, we'll be at the top of the list for this year.
It was not put in the budget. Picking parts in there this year to get paved. We came back with figures of like 60,000 or 80,000 per lot. Was what an estimate that Lynn came up with, and it became, where's the money coming from? And we never heard any more, so it was never put in the budget.
We appropriated funds since
There's
I've been here.
28,000, and we have
Yep.
a line item specifically designated that we created called parking lot maintenance.
Right. And picking, I think, was around 25,000 we thought it was gonna take to pave that this year.
Well, I had somebody, business owner on the west side of Sandusky, say he's seen 2 main improvements on the alley on the east side of Sandusky. It's time to start seeing stuff on the west side.
We met as a group and actually
We
talked
did.
about it.
We did.
We
We had a
did.
lengthy discussion
And
about
we
it.
were told that it would be put at the top of the list because of all the issues.
Yes. Because there's a drainage issue
And we
that
had a
we're
whole
trying to
conversation.
address.
I'm not sure what he means. I don't know what kind of, unless you're talking about the art park.
He says that the alley on the east side of Sandusky is in better condition than the one on the west side.
You got storm sewer and new telephone lines put down through it.
Picking, I mean, that's something that you could use capital improvements if you want to get that, that's, we can do them all, but picking lot is by far the worst because it's collapsing in the middle.
Yeah, it's settling.
It's a very rough stage, so.
Well, have you looked at City Lot 3? I mean, what's your opinion of it?
We looked at all 3 of them.
Yeah, we looked at all of them.
There was something.
Lynn came back and thought, yes, it would be around 60,000, 80,000.
Because you're gonna mill. What's been done in time again is you come and do the quickie and you lay it over it, Well, now it's time to mill it back down, get the grades reestablished, because now, because of all the overlays, it's running towards the buildings, that stuff, so you gotta take it back out, lower it down, regrade it. We gotta fix the catch basin in the alley, and we're gonna put a new concrete approach on the Spring Street Poplar Street side. And to do that, and then for the sidewalk and the approach to do gutters, and the 2 light poles and the sidewalks on each side. Yeah, it's more than just throwing an asphalt overlay on it, but that's where we're going with it, to get them done right. I don't decide that issue that you're after.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
But aren't you throwing street work in with the parking lot when it comes to storm sewers and stuff? Isn't that by a different fund? I mean,
There isn't very much street work on those.
I mean, we had so much in the
Yeah,
parking lot fund for that.
whether the right-of-way street fund is for sidewalks, and that would be there,
I'm not
but
talking-
the alley on the east side.
Storm
is
sewers
where
are,
Yeah, we got one,
Okay.
catch, $4,000 or $5,000.
okay, that would come out of street, not the parking lot.
Storm.
Yeah, storm sewer.
Yeah.
Storm sewer, okay, it would come out of our parking lot fund.
No, it should come out of your parking lot fund now.
Okay.
What was the figure for lot 3?
I don't have those with me, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
It was
I-
six,
yeah.
the estimate back then was 60, 80,000, but the money wasn't there, so we was basically come to a standstill. We knew we was gonna do picking this year until the money's there to do the other ones, then just put on doing the engineering part. Until the money's there. So we just moved on to the next project.
So you're planning on doing picking before City Lot 3?
I don't know the numbers, I'll be honest with you. Crazy Fox?
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about.
Okay.
Lisa?
Yeah, picking was on the list to do last year and got canceled off the list because of COVID money. So we knew what that was gonna cost, so we put it back on there for this year. And the other ones came in, what, November last year, when they started talking about them?
Yeah.
It's when we found out about the other ones.
Did we not say that we were going to take the money from when we sold Baker's, the parking lot?
Yes.
We were going to take that money. I remember saying it to Mr. Wagner, all of us, I thought were in agreement. We were gonna take that money, add it to the fund to do the repair work, whatever, redoing Lot 3 behind Dillinger's and the Crazy Fox.
How much was that?
It was like $28,000 or $29,000, and it was specifically set aside.
Got half of
We're
it.
not opposed to doing it this year. We just were trying to see what tax revenue was gonna be available, and, you just heard our city engineer said it's a lot more complicated than just.
And I don't have a problem with that, but I don't understand why we're here.
We would have, just like the sidewalk at Walmart, they take time to engineer and put an estimate together, and, we've had this discussion that we can get that done and get back with you, see what the cost is gonna be.
Aaron?
Okay. I know that when I got here, there had already been something where they talked about City Lot 3. It had gotten skipped over, thrown to the side, ignored. It was brought back. Oh, we apologize, we didn't mean, now stop. Now, then we found out from the business owners that water was going into their businesses, and we had to do a temporary fix for the end of the year, and it was supposed to be on the top of the list. That's what was said in these meetings. That we were doing some sort of temporary fix to keep things from going into their buildings, and that we were gonna fix it at the start of the year. And now, picking has gone ahead of it again. I am not exactly understanding.
Picking was on the list.
Is that hurting businesses?
Picking was on the list.
Is that, is there water going into the businesses because of the parking lot? I mean, is it destroying other
We
people's property?
met with them, and the parking lot was not the issue.
Okay, Kevin?
I got an idea. They don't have all the information we're asking for tonight. We don't have all of our information, as far as, what was said on the minutes and things. Can we bring this up in 2 weeks? Can we have you guys do your research on your stuff and come and we can talk about it? We'll do our research on our stuff.
Better ask
And then,
Lynn if he can have it too.
that's what I'm asking, at least to start the conversation.
Mr. Dunn is waiting on me.
Thank you.
Right now, he's been very patient. I keep getting emergencies pop up. I need to get your roads finished first, the paving.
Oh, when you said you didn't have it with you, I thought you meant you had figures, just not here with you.
I think we did a rough estimate.
Just did a rough estimate back then.
Okay, that's what information I was going off of, and for the,
We still gotta get Edgewood out the bid.
Yeah.
We got
I understand that.
I'm 1 day from Edgewood.
If we can just,
A week from the mill and
if we can set a time, if 4 weeks is the time, then 4 weeks is the time, if we can do that.
we'll get a number.
Okay.
I can do it.
That way, we're getting all angry right now, and we don't have all the information, so let's schedule a time, let's get all the players back in here, and let's have a discussion then.
It's 4 weeks. Can you give me that? I don't have my phone.
It would be June the 17th.
June 17th.
I won't be here. I'll be in the Carolinas.
Can we make it so it's gonna count, because I'm gonna be East Coast, there's nothing
6
I can
days
do.
after my graduation in high school.
So you're not gonna be here? I'll be in the
Well, we
Carolinas, but I'll be happy to zoom in if I'm allowed.
So what's the sense in having it?
Well,
Okay,
Two of us are out.
we'll work on trying to figure out more information. He's gonna work on getting the information for us, and we'll try to figure out how we can get this together.
Because I've actually got the drainage issue on all the parking lot, because the American Legion has also been concerned. They're saying that it's the parking lot's fault. Whether I agree or not doesn't matter, but we are addressing that also with it, because it has to be lowered. We can't just keep piling it up. So.
And I get that, I've seen where it runs.
That's
over-
fine.
I see where it runs over there.
Yeah. Yeah, you aren't too far from
No,
there.
no.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Yes, Lynn?
Do you need me anymore? Anybody?
No, not right now.
Thank you.
I'll get a hold of you later for other.
Yeah, we'll get that. I'm busy now, Mark, back it off a month.
Okay, you will.
The bridges, I got those on the agenda too.
Okay. Billet manpower. All right.
I put in the packet the current ordinance for the billet and manpower. And then I also included two modified ones with highlights for the modifications.
I'm not on this committee, I'm gonna excuse myself for a second. I'll be back.
For the, this is for a president-appointed clerk. So I could start not being so far behind on getting stuff done in the office.
Which one are you looking off of, the one of 12 or the one of 5 that has the highlights?
1 of 5 has highlights.
And so does one of 12, I'm just trying to figure out.
Okay, so there's the billet and the manpower,
So
two
what are
separate
you-
ordinances.
What are you going off of right now?
The 1 of 5, which is billet.
Okay.
And I put so the council clerk, which we normally would put on as a separate ordinance stating the pay and all that, I put that on here too. so that I think it would eliminate the need for us to pass a separate ordinance every 2 years. I think once that position is on the billet, it can be as much as a simple vote of council every 2 years to just put in their minutes that this person is appointed as the clerk. So it'll actually, every 2 years, it'll save money by not having to pass and put a legal notice out for an ordinance having been passed.
Aaron, you had a question.
Are any of the other positions that are like the council clerk on the billet? I mean, the ones that have to be appointed after people have been...
Okay, so the council clerk it's basically a position that is, what do you call it? They serve at the pleasure of whoever is in office. I'll just give you an example here. The administrative assistant for the mayor would be...
Is she on here?
Yeah. And the only difference with the clerk is instead of one person appointing it, it's the council as a whole appoints it.
Right, I just didn't know if all those special ones were actually on the billet, except for ours.
Oh, yeah.
Because
The council clerk was the
I
only...
wasn't sure what the reason why it wasn't on there to begin with. I know it's always been that way according to...
That's why, because it's always been that.
Well, it actually follows the council 2-year cycle when the new council comes in and then they want to go ahead and agree that we're going to continue with this person.
Yeah, the Ohio Revised Code for the council clerk, it doesn't say that it has to be an ordinance that's passed specifically for it. It just says council shall appoint a clerk within 10 days.
I think the difference is, you know, in the mayor's secretary, you got a person elected to that position, and he hires that one person. We're a group of 7 that isn't going to be the same group of 7 every time, so I think that's probably why it was done that way years ago, was so that the new group of 7 people, and, you know, puts on paper who their person is. I think it's just probably why it was always done that way.
It was probably just never, it's probably been done that way for 150 years. And it was never put on the billet because it was already done and it wasn't like a pressing need. So it just continued on as it was.
Law director, is there any issue with changing it to put it on the billet versus how we've always done it?
I don't know, I'd have to go back and, that's what I was looking for. I want to go back and read the ordinance.
You mean the Ohio Revised Code or?
Yeah, the ORC on that. Just see if there's any guidance from the state.
Maybe
And then-
board to let Mr. Ratliff look into this and table this until the next one. Jim, sure.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I guess until we actually have.
I like...
States that within 10 days from the commencement of their term, the members of the legislative authority shall elect a president pro tem, a clerk, and such other employees as are necessary, and fix their duties, bonds, and compensation. So does that mean that a new ordinance has to be done every 2 years? I mean, it kind of reads that way, but just because it reads that way, at first glance, doesn't mean that that's exactly what it means.
You're going to try to clarify so we don't run into a legal issue.
I'll verify and see. I'm sure there's some guidance on it out there, but I want to clarify. Because, yeah, I mean, it would be way easier if we didn't have to do a new ordinance every 2 years and stuff, but.
Well, and then also it says, so it says President Pro Tem. We obviously don't pass a separate ordinance for that, and we appoint it the same way as how this ORC would read to appoint the clerk.
Mhm.
So that would lead me to believe that it could be done that, but, you know, you can look into it further.
Yeah, and we do hold the election, you know, that causes the question, are we doing President Pro Tem wrong? You know, so.
Actually, I had a statement. In all honesty though, I mean, if we can, this looks really good. And I really appreciate the highlight. I think maybe on our corrections, we could do the highlights. I mean, I like that.
Well, and I think the reason there wasn't highlights before is because the printing was always sent over there, and I don't think that main printer in the mayor's office has color.
I don't do anything like that because I know our printer doesn't, so I wasn't sure that the city had one with color.
But I started using a printer. I've been printing all this stuff out in my office, and I got color laser printer. And
Yeah, I couldn't talk.
I think that we may be able to purchase a color laser printer that's not a rented one. And, well, the one I printed all this on, I just bought it last night. It was like a little over $500. I'm almost thinking maybe we should go that route with putting one in that office rather than going with the rented one, because 2-3 months in, you're already money ahead. If it died, some of those big printers are a couple $100 a month to rent.
I'll donate you.
I mean, you could purchase a new one every 4 months and you'd still be money ahead.
Kevin says he's got one.
I got one you can have. If you can get it to connect. I tried and I couldn't get it.
And he'd be the guy that could figure out how to get it to
Yep.
connect.
I'll deliver it.
Okay,
A rented one?
No.
No, one that owns.
I own it.
okay. Let's, so we're in agreement to table this for,
Everybody save these?
Well, there's two ordinances here.
don't print another one. Yeah, that's,
Save these?
Yes.
There's two ordinances here, and I kind of wanted to go over the next one too, because there were some other changes on that.
This is the one of
Manpower.
14.
I'm really appreciating this.
Yeah, I do too, because I
Yeah,
have a good.
2520. Or 2520.
So the manpower one, I did,
This is manpower.
put the pay of the council clerk
Yes, I'll-
in there, and I aligned it up with what the union raises were, you know, every year for so many percentage of what the administrative assistant to the mayor was. So it topped out at, for this year, $23.50, and then next year, $24.03, which is the exact same as the administrative assistant to the.
I thought that our last meeting, we were in like the $16, $17, $18.
Well, that's the top end. You
he's
can,
just saying top.
it still says state minimum wage for men.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind, I see it now. I was looking, these two
No.
columns next to each other, and I'm like, I thought it was minimum of $23.50,
So,
max of
and then
$24.
I put that little, like,
Yeah,
sub-note
I caught that
of
out.
8 there, because it says pay set by majority council vote within range scale.
Okay, I get it now, it makes
So,
sense.
you know, if council, when it gets its next clerk, you know, you can start out at a certain hourly rate with that person and change it as you go, just like any other supervisor can change any of these other positions as they go, but council sets the pay of the clerk. So as long as Rob looks into it and thinks that we can do it that way and have it where it's just a vote of council and it's in minutes, we don't have to send out a new ordinance dedicated for that every time you change the pay.
Yes,
So
go
then
ahead.
do we have to have a sheet that refers back to, say, letter Z or whatever, as a separate schedule that when we start the person out? Because we were talking that, you know, maybe we would start them out at, say, $17, and then within 6 months, they progress to another pay schedule that follows the AFSCME
Pay
Yeah,
increases.
advancement
I
of
see-
their
I see what you're
employees.
saying.
For seniority.
Yeah.
Yeah, and under the way we do it now, you would include that in that appointment ordinance.
So that has to be in that part of it?
Well, it wouldn't be in that one, it would be in the, you would do a separate ordinance that.
Oh, okay.
Ordinance, council hereby appoints.
So we're still gonna have to do an appointment ordinance.
Okay.
Well, but that's what Kurt's asking, whether or not we really
It could
have
just
to
be a
do
simple
that.
vote of council.
Like we do President Pro Tem.
Right.
Yeah. Which sounds like law director will check into. And then a couple pages after that, I also got these paragraphs in here, says basic work period of the council clerk hereunder shall be 32 hours per week with additional hours to be authorized. And then the basic work period of council president clerk shall be 8 hours per week average, not to exceed 432. Because my theory was there, if there was, like, let's say right now where the clerk resigned, and obviously they're gonna be working more than 8 hours a week for a while.
So you're thinking that they don't always have to work every week? Is that what you're saying?
They may work 2 hours one week and 6 or 18 the next week.
Okay. I think I want them still to be here at least a little bit each week, so they're in the loop, they're up to practice. We're not letting them sit at home for 3 months, not doing anything until we needed them, type of a deal.
Yeah. And then the last sentence there says council president clerk shall also serve as clerk pro tem in times of absence of the regular clerk, unless a different clerk pro tem is appointed by council.
Lisa?
When are you guys tending to the interviews? To interview someone for the council clerk? That's this weekend.
Monday.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine, Monday.
Oh, another thing, if you just kind of look above that on section I, we still had the number 19 after access.
I saw that.
Which we had removed it from the billet because it's no longer channel 19 anymore.
It's just access.
It's just
Have we
access.
figured that out?
Huh?
Have we figured it out?
No, we haven't. We were gonna buy some more equipment and then it come up with the next round of the CARES money or COVID money that might be able to possibly pay for it, and it kind of got put on hold rather than finding it somewhere else in the budget.
Yep. The only thing I'll say is I like the idea of having 2 people. I still believe that they both should be council clerks, and have the full council, be putting them on the job and taking them off the job.
I see what you're saying, but the reason I was gonna argue against that was because of the ORC saying, the ORC only gives council one, its clerk to be the one that it appoints, and it's.
I think
in
they
the
say
ORC
we
and
have
other
to have a
places.
clerk. I mean, if the clerk pro tem could be you, it could be anybody. I don't think that changes that. And I'm thinking down the road, let's take all of our names out of this. None of us are here. 10 years down the road, there's other people sitting here. We also have to kind of protect ourselves from our future selves too. And my theory is it's going to be much easier to have a 4-person committee or a 7-person council making the decisions than 1 person. In case you get into a spat between 2 people, I think it's much easier to have it done that way.
Aaron?
I get that. My only thought, and I hate to say this, is what if they quit?
If who quits?
Both of them. Say both people in here quit at the same time. Now we have to go through everything we're going through right now without anybody here. And if he has one that he can appoint without having to.
You're not wrong, and I'm not arguing 100 to 0 on this, but I'm thinking having that part-time person, now you've got somebody to fill in.
Right,
I think
but
that's the protection.
What if they both go in there and they say, you know what, we're sick and tired of all you guys, and they both quit at the same time, then we're stuck in, it's a possibility, I hate
Yeah,
to say it.
I get
I've lived
it.
here long enough. That is the one plus of the president being able to appoint one, is in case of that crazy
Yeah. What about an option of the president can appoint somebody that the council will approve within 60 days?
60
I'm throwing out a random number.
I'm still gonna argue against that because the ORC says that one section where it says that the council president and the other executive officers of the city shall have exclusive authority to appoint clerks.
And then I have one more question about it. Let's say that another council president down the road decides they don't want a person in that position.
Well, it'd probably be about the same as like if the administrative assistant in the mayor's office would leave, and they, you know, it took them several months before they found a replacement, so there wasn't one for a while.
Okay.
Rob, could you look in?
Just so you know my statement, I agree with her wholeheartedly as one person on the finance. So I see it as, I would like to be able to say, hey, he needs an assistant, let him do it. That's my statement for that position.
That way we don't go through all this. If one quits, the other one can step in. Or if they do both quit, then you can hire somebody else.
None of you are wrong.
If they both had to be appointed by council and they both quit at the same time, you can't get anybody in there until council meets, has a meeting. But if it's appointed, I could appoint one that night.
Look, there's a reason we're sitting here all discussing it, and that's why I throw it out there so that we can discuss it.
Is there a way to meet in the middle and say, okay, fine, their position has to be filled by vote by the whole council, but he can appoint them, and the council has 12, 14 days to come in and vote?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, is there a way to go in the middle where it's both?
So temporarily.
So no matter what, he's got them, they're in.
I would say that
Until we say otherwise. That way, if,
an ordinance like that would be in conflict of the Ohio Revised Code because of it saying that one thing in there about council president, mayor, other executives.
what you're looking at though is, okay, the council, we've got two different ones that we can be working on, and you're looking at the one that says you can do one. And they're looking at the one that we've been using that says the council does it. It doesn't say one person. It says that we have to have at least one person. So, I mean, I get that. But I also get the fact that you would really like to have the say. However, what if Jeff Reeser was the next council president? And he picked his sister, who can't type for anything.
You can't do that, it's nepotism.
I'm saying, okay, his
next door neighbor.
His next door neighbor, who can't type, is the worst person you could possibly have for the job. Do you want him to be allowed to keep that person in there and us pay them money?
And we can't remove them. That's where I was.
That's the one spot where I'm saying, okay, can we meet in the middle?
Well, you can remove them by redoing the billet.
That removes them, but that doesn't allow you to put somebody else in there.
But that doesn't allow the president to get somebody else in there to replace them quickly.
You're just doing away with the position.
Okay. I think the analogy that Aaron's looking for is how we do appointments to certain commissions. The mayor would appoints people to certain commissions, and the council approves it. So what I hear you saying is perhaps if council has a clerk and an assistant clerk, and by ordinance, the assistant clerk is appointed and recommended to council by the council president, and then council would approve.
Yeah, how is that any different than what we did with Todd? Isn't that?
Well, no. Todd was kept on, but he was.
We appointed him.
The council recommended Todd to council, and council approved Todd. I think what I heard Aaron saying was that a deputy clerk would be appointed by the council president and then approved by.
Which is like Mr. Drupa was made the service chair by the president, and we voted on it.
Figure out what you're saying there, but yeah.
It's the same thing.
That's kind of like the health department. Kate was here today. I think the mayor has an appointment to the health department, and then it comes to council to approve his appointment to health department, and then I think council has an appointment.
I would just read the
yeah.
ORC, which is 733.01, executive powers in cities. Executive power in cities shall be vested in the mayor, president of council, auditor, treasurer, director of law, director of public service, director of public safety, and such other officers and departments as is provided by Title VII of the Revised Code. Such executive officers shall have exclusive right to appoint all officers, clerks, and employees in their respective department or offices, and remove or suspend any of such officers, clerks, or employees subject to civil service laws. If you try to make that anything else, you're getting rid of that. You're conflicting with the ORC.
If they're going to do interviews for this position,
Which position you talking about? For
the full-time one?
Council clerk or
The
council
council
president
clerk.
Yeah.
Council clerk, you are sitting in on the interviews.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's basically a group effort of who you guys are choosing. And then you're appointing them and we're approving it. Am I right?
I'm not appointing council.
Two different
clerk.
things.
There's
Are
two
you talking
separate
about the
issues here.
deputy clerk?
A clerk to me and a clerk to you guys.
Okay. You're interviewing for a clerk for us.
Just for us, currently.
You're going to be in on those interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to appoint a clerk for you?
Separately.
Okay. So what's the problem?
Because of Ohio Revised Code, they just read, he is allowed to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can create a clerk's position under his office, under
Yes.
that. Just like I have one under mine, the mayor has one under his.
And that's kind of a backup
Or,
to council
yeah,
clerk.
or you can have two clerks under your
Yeah.
provision, and that's
Okay.
what we were just discussing.
I will say that
You have either option.
just that, you know, everybody's like, do I need a clerk for myself? Well, look over at the administration office. There's so much more activity going on in this city that they have two
Yeah.
more people in there than just as short as a couple years ago. They have the intern from the Goodwill is helping. Mr. Rostash is doing a little bit of administrative work. You know, if they're busier in that office, it's busier in the council office.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is there money in the council president's budget to pay for a clerk for the council president?
We were going to look at the full-time clerk that was normally 40 hours, making them 32, and then the other position making it 8, so it still equaled out to 40 hours being paid. So there really is no change in the money.
And on top of that, a little bit of a reduction from what the previous clerk was making, so there's ample finance to cover it.
So then that is going to shorten the hours that the council clerk will be in office then?
Yes.
Shortened from what it used to be to what the new person will be, yes. They'll still be full-time with benefits at 32 hours.
That then limits the availability of the council clerk to get information for the public, to get information.
Well, if you got the one person in there the other day, it's still gonna be the same amount of
There'll
hours.
still be someone there.
The only way it's not is if they're both in there the same hours, which I'm not saying there won't be a few instances where they're both in there the same hours, because they might need to help each other or something.
The idea that was thrown out the other day was that way
We're always
there's a
covered.
backup at all times and
I understand.
we don't get in this, but at the same time, it started out as being able to have an emergency temporary person to being a part-time position year-round. So,
Well, we,
In the past, Kelly could fill in, and we've been not allowed to have that, so this way, there will always be someone to fill in when someone's sick
I
or on
think-
vacation.
what happened, Aaron, is the more we talked about it, the more it made sense for that person to not be just there like on call for an emergency situation, but to be regularly in and out of that office so they're familiar with the
Yeah, be
office.
involved.
yeah, right. But then at that point in time, you're gonna have the overlap. They're not gonna be a 40-hour person at all because they have to overlap to be able to have one getting information off the other. Just saying.
They don't have to both be in there. The one can call the other one up and say, hey, where's this in the filing cabinet or something.
So they're paid at the council meetings when they're here, correct?
Say that
So
again?
They're paid at the council meetings when they're here.
When they have their hours, when they hit 40, like on Friday, they would leave
Early.
2 hours early or whatever their,
Or on
There
meeting
was a
days,
flex
Todd never
time.
came in till 10.
yeah, or
in the
they
morning.
came in later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like flex time.
Todd
that's-
was keeping track, he had a flex time sheet, so if he'd work over a couple hours tonight, he'd have that on a sheet, and then he'd accumulate enough to take Friday off.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the office wouldn't be covered, especially on council days.
It pretty much wasn't covered every Friday. He was pretty much, he had enough hours built up throughout staying over that every Friday he had off, unless some other circumstance, like he had to have something done that Friday.
Bruce, you had something?
Well, if we're done with this subject, maybe.
I'd say, so we can look it over.
I know that there was a piece of legislation that we had tabled, and I'd like to make a motion to remove that, council clerk supervision and the formation of the ethics commission. I'd like to see us do away with that, so I make that as a motion to remove it from the finance committee.
Open projects.
Yeah, open projects that
It was
Mr.
not.
McKeever had pulled, and we didn't vote on it, and so at this present time, I'm making a motion to remove it.
Second.
Okay, any
I have a
discussion?
question about that.
Okay.
What do we do when we run into this problem again?
Well, I made a motion, so
It's on the table.
Well, it's discussion right now, so, yeah,
I mean, seriously, what do we do when we run into this problem again? We had an issue in the office. The person who was supervising and the person who was in the office, it was not good. That person has to go to somebody if there's an issue. What if Kurt had
They
been
go
in
to
that
the
office?
state.
What if Kurt had been in that office and,
I'm referring back to the Ohio Ethics Commission.
but the Ohio Ethics Commission, according to what they said from the county, tells you that you've got to go through steps in your area first. So you would have to have somebody else step in your building. Who would we put to have that? I mean, would we have Joyce cover it? Would we have the law director's office cover it? If there was an issue and they had to have somebody step, because that's something that we
I'm
do need to have.
confused, who's stepping in, because they go straight to the state.
I
Yeah.
think we're talking about two separate issues
If they don't
here,
have a
too.
union, then they go to the state. I mean, on ethics.
I say, because according to Jenny, when she came in, and I falsely thought it was Vicki who'd said it, remember, I messed up, and she'd said that they have to go through steps before they turn it into the state. So if you have a problem with your supervisor, you go to the head of another department, and they had it set up as to what departments.
That was
like-
the commissioner's office she was talking.
Right. That's the
Because
county.
They had
And
supervisors.
because you have to go to a different, before you go to the state. So if we have that same issue, who does this person go to?
They can
prior
go
to
right
going
to the state. There's no law that says they have to go to their supervisor.
There's
You
employment
can
laws,
always
they can go right,
contact the
there's
Ohio
state
Ethics
employment
Commission.
laws, they can go right to the state.
We have that posted on our boards at work. I mean, I could go to my supervisor, or I could be angry enough to go to the Ohio Ethics Commission. Just, normally I don't do either, I just yell.
If you don't have anything set up within the city to go to, then you go to the state.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, shouldn't we have something set up so we
No.
don't get to this
There's
point?
extra paperwork and extra craziness.
I will say that as Todd's supervisor, he never came to me once and stated anything. He went straight to other people. And if he would've came to me first,
Things
maybe we
worked
wouldn't
out
even be
differently.
having this discussion right now.
all right, I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Okay, and then I'd like to have something else. I know that we had 10 responses to Todd's job, and then Kurt came up with a good idea that he would send all the minutes out to those 10 people, and 5 people actually took the time to type up the minutes, and I really do believe that instead of doing them in shifts, I know that we were going to do them over a 3-day period.
No.
Determination is now a 1-day period. I think to keep it above board and fair to everybody, I make a motion that we interview all 5 people at the same time. That way we got the 5 to compare against one another, and not do 3 and then decide that we're gonna do the 2 at a later date. My motion now is to interview all 5 at the same day.
This coming Monday.
Yes.
I have a motion. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion pass. All right, I will say we need to, if you have any questions you want to ask, we need to draw up something so we ask them all the same questions. So if you can, yes, Lisa.
I just interviewed for a position not too long ago, and it was with 2 people. And each person, which I know there's more of you on that committee, each person came with their set of questions. So if each person on your committee has a set of questions and you ask those repeated questions.
That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
that's what it's
I'm saying whatever questions.
Oh, I thought you wanted them to give it to you now. and I was
Well,
like,
it'd be good for all of us to have, just like when we have an interview at work for a different position.
Right, that's
There's a panel that has a list of questions. They all have the same thing, and each one asks off that list.
We said we were all gonna submit our questions to Kurt, and he was gonna compile them together and then have 5 copies of that for each interview, so we could all make our notes.
So we can ask each one the same question to give them
Exactly.
fair, so nobody asks them
Same
a
thing.
special question and then skip the others.
So what about follow-up questions? There's none?
Microphone.
There's no follow-up questions to the answers they give us?
I think
I mean,
that's.
That's because that's part of the, whatever they answer.
I mean, I may not ask the same follow-up question to the one person.
That, you don't have to ask the same follow-up question. You offer them and they gave you a different answer. You want clarification. Yes. You're giving them all the same opportunity if they answer it different and you need clarification.
I just want to be fair to.
That's fair because you're all offering the same questions. It depends on how they answer. And if you got a question on that answer?
I was just helping with a training on how to interview. There are questions like that you can ask that they have online at different, there's like you can look up interview questions and they give you all sorts of samples of them. Some of those are really off the wall, catch people off guard, but watching them respond and how they respond to them is really a good indicator of whether or not they'd be a good employee. But your question about follow-up questions, every follow-up question is going to be different because they're not going to have the same answer. If they all came in and had the exact same answers, you'd have the same follow-up questions and they'd be all the same person.
I was just making sure we could ask follow-up
Oh, yeah.
questions and we didn't have a line of questions and that was it.
If any of the other council members not on the finance committee think there should be some questions, that's emailed them to me.
Well, I was just saying, because when he was saying if you can
I'm
think of
open to it.
questions, if you want, I can look for a couple of sites and send them to you to get ideas off of. I was just really enjoying some of those.
Yeah.
Because
The questions I'm gonna be asking is gonna be stuff like, are you familiar with running word processor, Excel, Adobe, because that's, I mean, all this stuff today had to be, I mean, I made that thing with the yellow highlights.
I like the yellow highlights. I haven't done those because we didn't have colored copiers. but I
Okay.
didn't figure anybody else did.
So how much time do you need? Do you need this by, if we get it to you by?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Saturday.
You can get to me Sunday.
Okay,
The questions,
yes,
Sundays.
okay. So let's try to get them to him by Sunday. If we have anybody else have any questions, please submit them because it's just to help us find somebody qualified to take care of our problem.
Are you gonna be at that?
Is he gonna run it by Rob to make sure there's something we shouldn't be asking?
Rob, before you leave, I have a question.
Yeah, and Kurt, will you be able to make sure Rob looks at the questions and make sure we're not asking something that
We're
What
not-
color are you?
We're not allowed to really ask.
The equal opportunity
What
employment.
do you
Yes.
identify as?
If you
Can't-
could, that'd be
Can't ask
great.
that one, Aaron.
I know, that's.
Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn, unless anybody else has anything. I'm going to adjourn finance at 8:19. Is there any public participation?
Thanks for sticking with us on that.
I'm asking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
She
I
just said
adjourn
no.
at 8:20.